Well, while we're waiting for Michael to rejoin, do we want to just kind of go around? I'll call your name and you can introduce yourself and your class year, what you do currently, and maybe share a memorable experience from Oglethorpe. So let's start with Dylan.
All right, you said class year, and then
I'd say your major. I didn't say that actually. Class year, major, what you're doing now. So your job title or the company you work for, and then maybe a memorable experience. Yeah.
Alrighty. So I'm Dylan Harper, class of 2019. So pre-pandemic. Business major, business administration. And then right now I am running a company. I do marketing, various marketing tasks for small businesses. So a lot of mom and pops that work around the home service business space. Memorable experience. I would say my time in Trayer. I don't know who all grew up in Trayer, but that's a magical place to say the least. Just a lot of good experiences and a lot of crazy things would happen. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan. How about Todd? You'll have to unmute.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Todd Shapiro, a class of 89 business major, and I am at FedEx in part of their sales organization in Memphis. You know, when you said you had a lot of memories from Trayer, when I was in school, Trayer was a girls' dormitory. So,
Wow.
I think it was a magical place as well.
It was Dempsey was all girls dorm in my year, so that's crazy.
But I would say that you know, a lot of memories being part of the soccer team. So that's a lot of good memories with those guys and being a part of that.
I see that Michael's back. Welcome back, Michael. I am going to let you take back over. So Dylan and Todd have already introduced themselves, and I've been calling people out by name just because we don't know the order everybody is situated, and I think we discussed that when you were still there.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Michael Woods, moderator for this evening, but I will let the panelists continue introducing themselves. Tony, would you go ahead?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Golden. I graduated in class of 2013. When I was at Oglethorpe, I studied accounting and economics. And now I currently work as a manager at EY, EY is one of the big accounting firms, and I work in the Financial Accounting Advisory Services Group. We call that FAS for short, and we pretty much just work with clients to help solve their complex accounting issues, and that word means a lot. That means that we help them with just general accounting. We can help them with transaction accounting. We also have a group that works with climate change and sustainability. And we also work with emerging technologies such as blockchain, robotic process automation, data analytics, et cetera. And I guess one memory from Oglethorpe is, I guess, my freshman and sophomore year, while we still had, I think it was called the, I forgot the name of the student center, but it was a room called the bomb shelter, where we had ping pong and pool tables, and in the outside courtyard area was this huge, I guess, basketball trampoline area. So it was always fun playing with my friends in there, much more than we should have been studying, but that's my memory.
Wow, that's awesome. Anaya, how would you go next? I'm sorry.
No, it's no problem. Ayana Bryan, a class of 2003. My major was business administration with a minor in math. Most recently, I was the marketing director for a technology company that was headquartered in London, but has spent the last about 15 years in media and entertainment, as well as Samsung, working in different marketing aspects. As far as memories from Oglethorpe, I would say I was very involved on, student government. So I was on the programming board, and I think something that was really exciting was bringing T.I. and another rapper, I forgot his name, to Oglethorpe for Stomp the Lawn, and I didn't know who they were at the time and got confused with who they were and gave like one person the wrong check because I thought, I forget his name. I'll remember throughout the process of the conversation, but he's a very popular rapper in Atlanta and had no idea who they were at the time.
Wow. Okay, Miranda.
I'm Miranda Lynch, so I graduated in the winter of 2017, so also fairly recent. I was a human resource management major while I was at Oglethorpe, so under the business umbrella. I'm currently a senior human resources generalist with Guardian Pharmacy Services in Atlanta. I work in our corporate support office. Memorable experience at Oglethorpe. There's so many of them. But I think kind of like Dylan said, I lived in Traer my freshman year, and I think that your freshman year is just such a profound time. So when I think back at Oglethorpe and I think about all these memories that made like a huge impact on me and things that I was getting involved in that I'm still interested in now, I think back to my freshman year. It's just such a fun time for anybody starting college, being on your own and finding kind of what your niche is.
Right. Well, thank you, everyone, all the panelists for sharing. I don't know what Mary said earlier, but I want to welcome everyone to the panel. And on behalf of Alumni Relations and the Career Development and STAT, I am so excited to kick off these panel series for this semester. And so we'll just dig right into the questions. So for you all, the panelists, you are welcome to answer any of the questions, but also don't feel obligated to answer if you don't want to. But my first question is reflecting on your time at Oglethorpe. What is one dynamic, whether that be a club, organization, or a course you've taken here at Oglethorpe, what experience has benefited you in your career? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but
I'll go first. It's
okay.
I would say, as I mentioned, I studied business administration and marketing, and obviously we were allowed to take electives. And I took a photography class, actually, because I was just always interested in taking pictures. And one thing that really always stood out to me from taking that class, it was about storytelling. So as a marketer, you're telling stories so that you can be relatable, so that you can either sell and communicate a product. And when I was taking the photography class, that was what the professor always reminded me of, is what is the story that I'm trying to portray from this image? What's the frame? How am I going to frame this up so that the person that's looking at it can understand the story that I'm trying to tell? And that's something that just always stood out to me. So what I really learned was it's okay to take classes that are outside of the, your electives that are tied to your area of study, because it definitely helped me to see things differently.
All right, I guess I'll go next. So at Oglethorpe, I was involved in a lot of different organizations on campus, but if I had to pick just one, I would say the Accounting Society. I'm not sure that that club still exists in 2020, but I would say the Accounting Society helped me the most with my career now, just because it helped me become more of a sociable person in terms of business. I was able to take on different leadership roles, and I was able to help out with planning different networking events for bringing different recruiters and accounting firms on campus, and help planning different etiquette dinners. So I could be better at just learning how to eat while I'm in a business setting. There's a lot of rules that you don't think about. And other than that, it also just helped me reach out to different, I guess, organizations such as Becker, which is a CPA type of certification program. So they came to our campus, and just being part of the Accounting Society and the connections I was able to build, I was able to be the Becker campus ambassador and help other students learn about the requirements of the CPA exam.
Okay. So I was a freshman, actually. I joined a fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, Fraternity Incorporated. And when I joined, the chapter had only been a year old. And it was only 2 people deep, and they graduated right when we came in. And so being in Greek life has a lot of benefits, but what helped me the most was the fact that our chapter was new. And so there was a lot of space for us to build. There were a lot of systems that we didn't have in place. Ayana, you talked about storytelling. We had to tell our story as a chapter that had really never been a part of campus until we got there. And so creating those narratives and building out what it even looks to be a chapter translated tremendously into what I'm doing now, which is building business, building a client base, building I guess a personal brand and a brand for my business, and putting in systems so that when I can grow to have employees, there's stuff there for them to do. Because I've worked at some smaller firms and then like medium-sized firms, and even medium is 40 employees. And so to see the difference between like a 4-person business and a 40-person business, there are a lot of systems in place in the 40-person business that don't exist in the smaller size business. And so just kind of learning and saying, okay, these are the things that we need to have done, and being able to look at the present, look at the near future, and figure out how to get from point A to point B. All that is kind of what I got exposed to when I joined the fraternity.
Miranda, how about you?
So I was involved in a lot of very different things on campus. I was an orientation leader for all 3 years that I was eligible. I was a peer academic leader. I was in a sorority, just a really broad variety of things. And such a huge part of my job right now is being able to relate to people of all backgrounds, of all skill sets, of all, communication styles, especially working with like management teams where you have many people from many of those different things, a variety of people that you have to work with and try to get everybody to be cohesive. And all of those activities really, really helped me. When I came into Oglethorpe, I'm kind of naturally inclined to be a little bit more introverted. I don't, reach out to people and connect very easily, or I didn't. And those really, A, pushed me out of my comfort zone, and B, I really had to work at understanding other people and forming genuine relationships, and doing that through whatever way those people were comfortable with. So that really, really helped me develop some strong communication skills and just some emotional intelligence that I use pretty much every day at my job.
Hey, I'll just add on to what Ms. Bryan was talking about, which was, for me, it was taking classes that I normally wouldn't take that really, I think, helped me later. And it was because of the professors. So I think that's one of the Oglethorpe's treasures is the professors. And, I had Vicky Weiss, who some of you may know. She has retired recently, but I didn't like English at all. But because of Vicky Weiss, I actually took an extra English class. And same thing with Hetherington. I don't know how many people know Hetherington or how long he was there, but you tend to have a lot of fun in his class. So it was the professors that helped me want to take things that I might not normally take that eventually, helped me throughout my career in, in being part of a university that is, a liberal arts education where you're getting things that you might not normally get somewhere else. I'll pass it back to you, Michael.
All right. So continuing on this reflection on Oglethorpe, as a follow-up, what is something that you wish you knew or had knowledge or tidbit of information that you wish you had been privy to prior to embarking on your professional journey? I'm just gonna popcorn some people. Oh, Todd, are you talking?
Well, I'll start on that one because that's really easy. I was in a rush. I thought I needed to graduate in 4 years and, and get out and start working. And I wish I had done an internship or something. And I think that would have, if somebody would have, helped me understand those things, maybe I would have done that. So I think taking the time to, take advantage of those opportunities, was really important and helpful.
I would say that, like Todd said, opportunities. I didn't realize that college was really just the tip of the iceberg when it came to learning. And I think it goes for any degree or any major. Is you go and you think, okay, well, I'm going to learn what I need to know to go out and start my career. And really, you're just learning the tools or the skill sets to learn even more when you graduate to do well in your career. And so when I got into the real world, I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Or like I kind of figured out like, okay, I need to beef up these skills. And so I mean, honestly, I wish that I'd realized that back in college, and I would have started taking some extra classes, like online, not formal classes, but just little, like Excel, for example. There are tons of resources online to get really good at Excel. And so I didn't figure that out until I graduated. I was like, okay, I got better at Excel then, but it would have been amazing had I knew Excel a couple years ago, like I do now. So really it's just start learning and beef up your learning and just be prepared to learn until you die. But because you're always learning. So
I cannot stress that enough because that was such a lesson for me. And especially, like I said, in my field, it does require a lot of, emotional intelligence and things, soft skills that can't be taught to you. And so I wish that I had known, and I've figured it out and I've done a good job now, but being able to identify what you don't know and then know how to go find those resources that are available. So they teach you the skills in college to do things like that. How am I going to tackle this situation? And then actively pursue every single opportunity that you have to absorb more and more and more. My first year out, I remember just being like, they did not teach me this in my degree. And I was an HR major. What do you mean? But there's just so much that cannot be taught in a classroom. So just actively seeking every single opportunity to learn and to still fall back on those problem solving skills. But yes, absolutely.
I would say that one thing I learned that it's okay to write your own story and create your own path. I would say right out of school, I was really hard on myself because I expected to, have that career trajectory the way that the accounting majors have theirs. But as a general business admin, marketing, it's where do I get my first break? And I would say as a marketer, what I expected was, okay, maybe I start as a marketing assistant and go up to coordinator and so forth. My path was not that way. I don't think I got a marketing title until I was mid-career, but I was still doing marketing. And so I had to really learn that, I don't need a specific title to grow and learn marketing in different areas. And so it was okay to have my own path to, you know, what I deem as success in that particular area or field.
So I guess being the accounting major, there was, I would say, more of a clear path, but that kind of relates to one thing that I wish I knew before starting my career. In accounting, it's just, what are all the different options available to you? Because for us to have that set path, the path that we're kind of told is, you go get a CPA exam, you go and do tax or audit. I know I didn't like tax, so the only thing that I thought was audit. Do audit so you can have more of a, I guess, more of a safety net. You can do whatever you want after you do audit. So after I did an audit, I learned I didn't like audit. And once I got there, I realized that there's a whole other practice at these firms where I can still focus on what I studied in college. And there's a whole other advisory or consulting practice. And I just found that I really prefer to do advisory and consulting services more. So if I had known that before I started, I probably would have done more networking to get into the advisory group from the start.
Yeah. And then on the point that Dylan and Miranda brought up about learning all you can, I also wanted to just say, for our current students, LinkedIn Learning is free for, if you are a student, take advantage of that service. I certainly have during this pandemic. Our next question is, does what you have studied at Oglethorpe reflect what you're currently working in? If not, why? Dylan?
Yeah, I'll go. It does and it doesn't. We touched on that a bit in the last question. But thinking about just courses in general, I think as grueling as it can be in the moment, core is very, very good at preparing you for your career, any career, I think. And it's really, I mean, the bare bones of core is taking information, processing it, and creating a stance on it, and connecting that information to other positions that are taken. And so, I mean, that is also critical thinking, because I'm thinking back to some of my classes where we would read one author or one philosopher and say, okay, this is the 3 top points that they're hitting on. What would this author say about these points? And so developing that critical thinking skill, and then also being able to interpret information and also communicate it in a way that people can understand it, and not just the general people, but specific people. And I think Miranda could attest to this, because people listen in different ways. They all have their own filter. And so telling one person one thing might have to be, to tell one person one thing, you're gonna have to take a different approach to tell somebody else that same thing. And so core is great at strengthening that muscle to do that, if you take it seriously and actually engage in class. But if you don't, then it's kind of it's a waste. Yeah, definitely core.
Ayana, do you have anything to say?
I mean, I would say for me, I studied business and marketing, and so that's kind of the area that I worked in. So it was a natural and positive transition for me. Yeah, not a clear-cut path, but I knew that it was an area that I was very interested in. So we did a lot of marketing strategy. We did pretty much what I've grown to focus on in my career.
Anyone else have anything to share on that point? No? Okay, well, for our next question, we often hear during school that networking and internships are vital to our success. So what are the first steps that you can recommend that students do to market themselves and get exposure to their workplace?
I can start off with this one. So yes, I agree. Internships are definitely important, and networking is definitely important for students. I've definitely advised students to start as early as possible. So even if you're a freshman, go ahead and start. You may not qualify for the internships yet, but still go and be that person. Go to all the networking events. Go to I think there's dinners you can go to for your different majors, and just get to know everyone, understand what they do, and when there's an opportunity available, they may be thinking of you. And also, if there's no internships available, a lot of companies, they have summer leadership programs that you can participate in. Just kind of put yourself on the list, so when they do start doing internships, you're already a potential candidate.
Yeah.
So I would just say, just be proactive and just talk to as many people as you can about what you want to do, because people do want to help you.
I would say that internships were so critical for me starting out. I had amazing internships in college through a program called Inroads. And what I realized is that at the time, I didn't think that Oglethorpe had the proper resources for business majors. Again, the focus was always on the finance people and the accounting people. They had all the big, the big five at the time coming in, recruiting with them. And then for me, I had to seek companies out. So what I would do is that I had kind of companies that I was interested in, and I would go on their career site and it would show the events that they had coming up. So it would show what career fairs they would be at. And if they were in Atlanta and they weren't at Oglethorpe, I would go to the schools that they were. So they did a lot of stuff at the AU Center. I would just show up, with my suit and my resume, and really was able to, connect with companies that were interested in me. Now, I think we have such a great team as far as resources that are available. So, tap into the career services team and, engage and talk to them. And then there are also so many alumni that are working at major brands here in Atlanta or just throughout the US that you can just, and I get emails all the time from Oglethorpe students that just want to talk to me, and I'm absolutely open to talking to them because I've had such value in the internships. My first internship was in marketing at GE while I was actually taking a marketing class. So the summer, because my internships were in the summer, and so I had just finished marketing, and it reinforced a lot of what I learned, and it validated that I did want to pursue marketing. What it also showed me was that I wasn't interested in working in engineering. So I was doing marketing for GE, and I did not like, the brand or the company. And then the following year, I worked in marketing for Kraft Foods, and I enjoyed the consumer goods side, but then I realized that I wanted to, go into media and entertainment, and I can do marketing in other verticals. So I, actively pursued opportunities within media and entertainment, and that's how I ended up at Turner Broadcasting for that time period. Is because one, I had the marketing skills that I gained from the internship, but I also was very proactive in reaching out to the people that I needed to engage with at the company.
I can go. I would say absolutely yes. Use your resources, because Oglethorpe does have such amazing resources in the career development lab. I remember the internship that I wanted at Coca-Cola was eliminated one year, and I was in the career development office working on my resume, working on my cover letter, and I was just distraught. And they were like, we're going to help you. We're going to get you something. And sure enough, another Oglethorpe alum had an opening, emailed them and said, this is what I'm looking for. And they immediately reached out to me and put me in contact. And that's actually my job now. I started as an intern with Guardian. So Oglethorpe helped me kind of get my job now. And then also, just seconding again what Tony said, just expose yourself to as many different people in what you want to do as possible. Start building connections. And again, I was such an introvert when I came into Oglethorpe. That was always hard for me. But now, like when I was getting close to graduation, I had families I babysat for that the mom did something in HR, and I'd be like, hey, can I ask you some questions, please? And so many people are so willing to help you. You just have to ask and express some interest in them and let them know what you're looking for, and they're more than happy to kind of open up their contacts to you. So don't be afraid to just put yourself out there and network.
Yeah, I would just echo kind of what everybody's saying, which is, and I can't really emphasize it enough, but developing relationships is the most important thing you can do, and it'll help you throughout your entire career, no matter what you do. And another thing that I don't know if people think about, which is talking to the professors at Oglethorpe, because a lot of them, not a lot, some of them will do things outside of being a professor. They're consultants. They're doing other things and have relationships with people out in the community that can, they can put you in touch with people, connect you with people, and so forth. So build and develop relationships with as many people as you can.
On the internship side, I would say don't get discouraged. I don't think I'm answering the question, but don't get discouraged if you don't get an internship that, like your dream internship, because a lot of things that you learn in an entry-level position can translate into a different position, and they're kind of like lily pads. You just get into one place and gain those skills and be able to also consult with career development, because they can help you present your skills in a way that's favorable for employers too. So go in, and if you're just doing data entry, or you're just sending emails or printing papers, all of those things can add up into experience for a better job. It's people skills and being able to organize and manage time, and communicating a set of ideas from management level to other employees. All those things make a difference and make you an ideal candidate for the internship you do want, or a job opening.
That is all great advice. Before we move on to our last question, we want to let the attendees know that you can now put in the Q&A a question that you have for any of our panelists. Ask that you say your name, or state your name, your class year, and what you're majoring in, and then put in your question in the Q&A. So our last question, what was the most enjoyable part about your job? I ask because working in business or communications can mean a lot of things, and I know we're all hoping to pinpoint that niche that best suits us and interests us. So what is that niche that you guys have found in your careers?
I can go. I can start. Mostly because when I left Oglethorpe and I was an HR major and I accepted a position as an HR generalist, I really had no idea what I was getting into. I knew what I had learned, but I didn't know what it meant. And especially at my company, we're really unique. And so I think a lot of times employees, when they hear HR, there's a little bit of a negative connotation sometimes, because we do a lot of, performance management. We have sometimes uncomfortable conversations when needed. But my absolute favorite part of my job is the fact that I get to be involved when someone says, I have this goal that I want to achieve, whether it's an individual or an entire one of our pharmacy locations. I get to be a part of helping them attain that goal. And so we sit down and we go through plans, and I give feedback. And again, sometimes there's uncomfortable conversations, but at the end of the day, there is nothing better to me than getting to that goal and helping someone reach their potential at work, because they're so happy and so excited and proud of themselves. And that's my absolute most favorite thing that I do.
Ayana, do you have anything?
Yes, I would say for me professionally, I've worked in a variety of marketing roles throughout my career. And when people think marketing, they think either events, you guys are the ones that have fun. Um, and you see all the pretty things, but there's a lot of work that takes place behind the scenes. And for me, every role that I've had, I've always been the first person in that position. And I thrive on just building strategy and building things from kind of the ground up. And really learning how to, position products and solutions in a very unique way. So I really like that aspect about what I do, where I'm able um, to put things together that you wouldn't ordinarily see. So I'll give you an example of something that I had done. I had worked in sports for about 4 years, and I had to find a way to connect Samsung with the NBA. How do you do that? Through, for instance, style. NBA players were all about, fashion and style. And at the time, Samsung was launching a new phone that had a new style, right? It was a new, design and so forth. So finding really unique value propositions from each product and bringing them together. So I really enjoy that part of just marketing as a whole, being able to kind of bring brands together that would not ordinarily kind of fit together or would be seen as brands that would unite.
It's that core connecting work going on, connecting one thing to another.
Absolutely.
I would say so. I work with small operations, so mom and pops, really. And so what I do directly impacts the business that they see. And so the enjoyment, I mean, aside from getting a new client, that's just like, if you've ever worked in sales, getting a new client or selling somebody on something is a rush in itself, because it's like, wow, I did that. It was all for me. I did the right critical thinking and delivered the right message. But to see my work actually improve a mom and pop's business it's amazing. I just off the phone with a client today, and we were talking. It's a lawn care company, and they work over in Michael's area in the Lawrenceville, between Lawrenceville and Winder, Georgia. And so he was just saying, like, they had lost a bunch of employees because it's a seasonal thing. And so when it gets really hot, they lose a bunch of employees because they're not trying to mow grass or spray weeds in 100-degree weather. So I ran a campaign to pick up job applicants. And so they were using like the common Indeed to try and get employees, and that well dried up. And so I ran some campaigns through Facebook, through just different channels in Facebook, and got them 30 applicants. And so they were able to fill their positions in like a week and a half. It was actually crazy, but just to know how much that impacted that business and that family, it was a thrill.
So, I'll just add that kind of where I sort of became a resource for my colleagues was one of the things that happens in business is sometimes things don't go smoothly. You want things to go smoothly, but sometimes they just don't. And actually, I think that's a great opportunity, because when things don't go smoothly, it's how you react is what's remembered. And I kind of became a resource with my colleagues on when there's issues. I was very good, and really because of Oglethorpe, really good at writing and helping people reply to issues. And people came to me whenever, and it happened a lot in this segment of the business I was in. And that's really important, because when in the future, when people are deciding on where to place business, they're going to remember how you reacted when there was a problem, and that's who they're going to want to be with. Okay, because they know issues come up. And it's the same thing internally when you're looking for a new job inside your company. The people are going to want, they're going to remember how you reacted to issues, and that's gonna go a long way. So I think that Oglethorpe was instrumental in providing that education and being able to respond and solve problems using critical thinking. So pass it along now.
I guess to piggyback off of what everyone else has already said, I guess the one thing that I enjoy most about my job is really the fact that I get to work with my clients, and I guess I'm more perceived to be on their side. I enjoy working with them to help solve their issues. And usually when my team comes in, they're usually very relieved just because they had like this pain point that they just either didn't want to do or they just didn't know how to do it, and it was just there to help relieve their pain. So I just like to be helpful.
I guess that's how we'll go to our Q&A questions. So Tyler Rover asks a great question. He says, Tyler Rover, a fourth year business administration major, says, I have found the thought of the transition from college studies to full-time work or internship to be a bit intimidating at times. How do you prepare for and handle this transition from school to work upon graduation?
My personal thought is that the more involved you are on campus, the less, I guess, harsh that transition will be, because you like get used to just balancing that. I think college in general, and especially Oglethorpe, given like core is pretty rigorous as far as the requirements for the most part, and the basic courses that we take are rigorous. So I think already you have a solid base, whether you know it or not, because you're used to balancing so many different things and so many different deadlines. But my biggest piece of advice on that, whether it's professionally when appropriate, or personally, be okay to say no to things and to take a minute to be kind of on your own and check in with yourself. Those early months especially can be really stressful, and you've got your friends who have also recently graduated and they're wanting to go out and do stuff every night, and you've got these deadlines to meet at work, and you've got it's just a lot. So be okay to say no, I can't do that, or to communicate with your supervisor and your team about what you need as far as support, so that you can have those times to just check in with yourself and regroup if you need to.
I would say that internships, I know you said you're a fourth year student, and if you're able to secure an internship before you graduate, I think that would be a really great way to get introduced to the corporate world. One, because you'll definitely have to learn time management, between balancing your responsibilities from school as well as work, really learning how to communicate with your peers as well as, your boss. So if you're able to secure an internship from now until you graduate, that will certainly help the transition once you graduate and you're out in the world full time.
Definitely, like Miranda said, take some time to focus on yourself. I think, so I'd being nosy, I think you posted or reacted to Stephanie Selkowski's post about this event. So it seems like you're already in the right hands in terms of working with career development, because they will refine your skills and point out your weaknesses. And when you find your weaknesses, embrace those, and continuously work to try and improve them. Because when your worst attributes aren't even that bad is when you feel comfortable in the workplace, and being able to navigate those weaknesses and do well at what you do well, that it'll make it seem less intimidating when you get into the real world. But It's work is really no different than school. You're still working with people. You're still, like Miranda said, meeting deadlines. You're juggling a bunch of things. And if anything, you're more prepared to work a position because you're coming out of such a fast-paced environment, which is college. You're more prepared than you think you are to get the job done. So don't be nervous.
Okay, our next question comes from Stephanie. What is the best piece of career advice you ever received at Oglethorpe or immediately after school?
So I can start off with this one. So I guess I have two. So the first one is at Oglethorpe, the best piece of advice I received from a professor. And he told me whenever you're going for an interview or preparing for an interview, have an idea of how you want to portray yourself, how your skills align with the company that you're interviewing for, and don't leave the interview until you're confident that the interviewer has received that message. And usually if I go into an interview with that attitude, I've gotten 9 out of the 10 interviews. I usually get the job or get the offer when I come in with that attitude. And then another piece of advice that I received after school was that you just have to do the work. I guess you have to continue to learn, and you just have to continue to study. A lot of times it's going to be after hours. It's going to be after you get off of work. But if you want to be well at what you do, you just have to doing the work, the extra work. Always learn.
Definitely, like you said, studying. And career development taught me this. It's before you go into an interview, study everything. So, I mean, now we have this amazing resource, which is LinkedIn. If you know who's going to be your interviewer, go through their LinkedIn page, find them on the company website, find as much information as you can on the company, the interviewees, and what connections you can make between those data points in yourself, because that's what's going to get you through in an interview, is being able to make connections and have well-crafted answers before they ask the question. And so I had done this on an interview I had. I interviewed for it was a consulting firm for nonprofits, and I clicked through and I read all the managers' names and bios, and found, like, at the very bottom, somebody had Oglethorpe in one of their bios. It was one of their clients, or Oglethorpe was one of their clients. And so when I got to the interview, they were asking about what connections I had to the industry. And I was like, oh, well, I saw that Oglethorpe was one of your clients at one point, and blah, blah, blah. And like, I was able to make those connections. And so they were impressed, and they had that connection, and were able to remember me because I brought things up that they weren't expecting to hear, and that actually added value to the conversation. So always do your homework. And if you feel like it's obsessive, you're doing it right, because you can never be over prepared.
I would say one thing I definitely got, or one piece of career advice, is just learning the value of relationships and follow through. So I liken them to be very similar. So yes, you're going to meet a lot of people, you're going to connect with a lot of great, amazing people, but what do you do after, right? There are a ton of people that I give my business card to when I go to these sessions or talk, and I never hear from them again, or I hear from them when they want a job. However, if we've built a really good rapport, if we've had a good conversation, send a nice email as a follow-up. And one trick that I learned when I was in school was, when you meet somebody and you get their business cards, I don't think people are doing business cards now, but when they were doing business cards, you write something that you remember from the conversation, or something maybe that sparked your interest in the person, and you follow up with that. That would leave such a lasting impression. And I learned that, and it has helped me so much. And not just that, but if, for instance, somebody works in sports and you notice that there is, there was no sports for a little while and everything has shifted. Or you might see an article that might be of interest to that person. It's an easy way to re-engage and reconnect with them. I said, hey, I saw this, how has, XYZ that's been going on impacted your industry, or, some way to stay connected to a particular person, or, if they work for a brand that you're very interested in working in. That's the way that you actually, get your foot in the door at a lot of companies that are really, really difficult, by, finding ways to foster those relationships, but also following through.
Great. So from Erin Cheryl, she says, thank you so much for your contributions and sharing about your experiences. What have you learned about the world of work and or yourself during the pandemic? And what are you taking action on and can help inspire students as they engage their career development during this time?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. This is what I would say. I would say that unless you're curing cancer or saving lives, things can wait. And I feel like up until this point, I've always, every company, it's these crazy deadlines. We have to launch, we have to do this, we have to do that. And what this pandemic has done, it's put everything on pause. And it's made us rethink the way that we do business, rethink the way that we engage with each other. And so one thing for me, it's putting myself first, putting my health, my family, the things that are most important. And I feel like companies that are doing that, putting their employees and the employees' kind of wellness first, they're the ones that are winning, And so that's kind of something that this has taught me, just to, pause and reset, and it's okay. Because unless, like I said, we're saving lives, which we're not, we're just making money for these companies, things can really wait. Those are just my 2 cents.
No, I agree. I had to learn this early on in this whole situation, was that it is such a good thing to have boundaries. And it's okay to have boundaries. And at one point, my supervisor even was like, yeah, can you please figure out what your boundary is and make sure you stick to it? Because it's so easy when you're sitting at home and your home is your office to just be like, they need this now, and they need this now. But it can wait. Like, I need to act on my own personal needs. I need to check in with my family. They don't need everything right this very minute. And then also, it's kind of crazy. The opposite of what I just said is that some of my relationships with my colleagues are stronger than ever now. We work in long-term care pharmacy. Our pharmacy locations serve patients in assisted living, skilled nursing facilities. So our teams truly are serving some of the most vulnerable that need us so much right now. And just making sure that we're there to provide support. They have appreciated it so much, our teams have, that are serving those populations. So I have strengthened relationships really across my organization, just because we're all very understanding of each other and are working towards the same goal. It's been crazy.
And I would add too that what I've learned is, hopefully we don't experience anything like this again. But being at FedEx, being in an industry that has been not just shielded, but has really been excelled. If you look at our earnings report from yesterday. The industry that you choose, it may be something that is on your mind, because this isn't, the world of e-commerce, the shipping world. My wife is with a company that is the largest box manufacturer in the country. Boxes are really big in the e-commerce world, so we've been shielded from it, and we're thankful. So I've learned that maybe being in a boring industry is a good place to be. Something to think about.
And
Say,
oh, okay, I'll go. I guess one thing to add to that is just the thing the pandemic has taught me is just to be innovative and to be adaptive. It's because the things that you notice is the pandemic is keeping a lot of us from the way we normally interact with people. We can't go and hang out with people. We can't go and work in the same office anymore, or you can't keep the same business model that you normally have. And the thing, like, if you don't want to change, like, unfortunately, you may get left behind in this environment right now because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. You can't just say, oh, pandemic, I can't hang out with you today. I have to wait until it's over. It may be a year or two before you can go hang out. So you got to get innovative and come up some other type of way. Maybe if instead of waiting to hang out with you, I can pick up the phone and call you and just continue to build relationships that way. So that's just something the pandemic's taught me, just to think differently, and you can still do the same things that you want. You just have to do it a little bit differently and pick up a different skill, since we have a lot of free time now.
yeah, to Tony's point, adaptability is the biggest thing, and it's what makes you adaptable is knowing how to do more than one thing. And so I think that's one of the strong suits of Oglethorpe's education, is to make well-rounded students, well-rounded students, and then just well-rounded people in general. And so learning as much as you can and different skills across the spectrum is what's going to help you transition from maybe an industry that's under siege from the pandemic to a more boring industry that's shielded. So just kind of opening your doors and saying, okay, well, if I know I'm really good in analytics, maybe I need to brush up on some creative skills, and maybe look into photography or look into like the Adobe design platforms, because who knows, you might have to go from data analytics to what's that visual, I don't know, data presentation, where you're making charts and stuff, and you might need those skills. So just keeping your doors open by knowing how to do knowing a little about a lot. Is that the phrase? So
Great. And it's 6, but we only have one more questions in the chat. So to get into it, Tyson Quander, who is a business major of the class of 2021, asks, what are some major struggles or obstacles that you've had to overcome to get to where you are today?
I can start with that one. So I guess when I was at Oglethorpe, I wasn't a very good interviewer. So going back to the previous questions that we've had, it took a professor to really break down the concept of interviews for me. Because for me, I'm blunt and I'll tell you the truth, and that's not necessarily what you want to hear during an interview. But at Oglethorpe, I went on plenty of interviews and never got any offers. I was always got the feedback that you were just this close, you almost made it, but not this year. And then once I got that feedback, I went from getting 0 offers into getting like 5 or 6 different offers before I graduated.
imposter syndrome, I think that's a newer term, is not thinking that you have the skills to do the job that you've either been given or pursue. And so when I went in business for myself doing marketing, like that was just a thing that I had to constantly battle, because it's like, well, I'm just a kid. Like I just graduated. Like how am I supposed to try and get clients or grow someone's business when I'm just starting? But just having confidence in yourself and like recognizing that if you're always learning and you're practicing and knowing that you're doing what you're supposed to do to excel at your job, just have confidence that you're doing the right thing. And it's, again, it's trial and error. Like you might stumble, and you problem solve, and you look back and say, well, where did I go wrong? Let me try and do this better. And that'll keep you confident and help you get out of that imposter syndrome, because most chances it's going to happen at some point in your career.
Yeah, so that's a real, once I thought about it, there's a glaring, point in my life where I had graduated Oglethorpe. I had lived in Atlanta for 10 years. And I went to grad school at Georgia Tech, and then I always thought I would spend my life in Atlanta. Even though I'm not from there, it's where I was for so long, starting at, with Oglethorpe. And I had a job offer coming out of grad school in Atlanta. I had it in Boston. I had a job offer, which is another place which is where I wanted to go. But the right job was Memphis. And just having, leaving Atlanta, leaving all my friends was something I had never done before. Even when I went to college, my best friend and I in Orlando went to college together. So I had to leave all of this and go to Memphis by myself. But that was really the right decision. And now I'm here 20 years, except for 2 years when we lived out west. Again, another opportunity to do something out of your comfort zone. So I think that was a major obstacle for me, was leaving my comfort zone. And but it eventually pays off. It's something that you need to do to experience new things and grow. In something I probably could have done earlier in life, but that was the biggest obstacle, and it's really led us to where we are, and probably not leaving Memphis, but it was the right decision. So thank you.
I think tangent to what Dylan said a little bit, it's easy to get caught up. So my office and my department specifically are small. So we do give people a lot of responsibility and a lot of different projects and such that are yours, you own them. And I really had to learn that it's okay to admit you don't know something, or that you maybe should have handled something differently. You don't have to have all the skills today. When you graduate college and you start your job, they're not expecting you to roll up and be a master of everything. But it's okay to stop and say, okay, I probably could have, like I said, handled that better, or I need to go ask someone for help. It's perfectly fine to admit when you need more support, and nobody expects you to be an expert day one out the gate, not even day two, not day 1000. It's okay. You're always learning. I'm very hard on myself, and I had to get over that very, very quickly.
I would say, just to kind of piggyback off of the others, is one, you don't have to have it all figured out. And we put this unnecessary pressure on ourselves, especially as interviewers too. I remember always being asked, or even when I was interviewing, being asked the question, where do you see yourself in 10 years? It's like, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure it out now, but it's okay to take risk. So if you have interests that are in particular areas, there are certain transferable skills that you can take. If you realize that you don't like a particular job, you can take those skills that you've learned and apply it to the next job that you're in. So I think one thing I have to get over is that I'm not always going to know exactly how one job is going to take me to the next one, but if it piques my interest and I know that I can learn, that's something that I should certainly pursue. And so I would, encourage you all that take risk and take internships or jobs that might not necessarily be in specific areas that you didn't plan, but it can certainly help to move you forward. For instance, I worked for Cartoon Network for 3.5 years. I don't like cartoons, but I learned so much about that business. I learned so much about, storyboarding and scripting and things that helped me when I worked on video spots in the next role. So, just sharing that it's okay to, not have a direct path. You can, have a zigzag line to what you're deeming as success, but give yourself a break and enjoy each part of the journey, because it's a journey that you're on. And when you're getting out of school, we have, or at least I had, these unrealistic expectations that I was going to make a whole lot of money right away, and I was going to have these crazy titles because I went to Oglethorpe and I did XYZ. But you sometimes have to have a reality check, and that's what happened. But Oglethorpe is preparing you for the future, but making sure that you just put yourself in a good place to receive what's there for you, but also know that it'll take time to get where you really want.
Yeah, I think those are all great answers. I realized I missed a question in the chat. I'm just going to get to it real quick. So Trinity Williams, a biology freshman major, asked, what is one thing you wish someone told you while you were still in college that would have better prepared you for the present day?
I would say just have fun, right? Have fun, and kind of piggybacking off of what I said. Enjoy the journey and enjoy the ride. There's so much. You have a long career ahead, and if you have a misstep or what you're deeming as a misstep, it's okay, because it'll help to propel you forward onto something else. So I would just say enjoy the ride.
I agree. What I said kind of relates to what I'm about to say as well. Is it's okay to do things and you're not the best at it and you don't do it perfectly. It's still worth doing most of the time because it's an experience. So put yourself out there, do things that are outside your comfort zone. Again, do things you're not the best at, that you're not going to do perfectly, that you're not going to be number one in every time. Because regardless of that, you're probably going to learn something from it and it's going to be valuable to you. And in your work life, there's going to be things that you have to do that you're not going to be the best at and you're not the expert in. And you just have to prepare for those moments and not be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think one last quick one, someone asked, what are each of your current positions? Oh, someone says was, but.
I'm in sales with FedEx.
I'm a marketer. I do marketing.
I also do marketing. Smaller than her marketing. I work with small mom and pops.
Mm-hmm.
Consultant for accounting.
I'm a senior HR generalist for Guardian Pharmacy Services. We do long-term care pharmacy.
Okay. Well, I think I have all the questions. Yes, I believe so. Thank you everyone for attending, and a even bigger thank you for all of our panelists. And just for everyone to know that there will be a recording of today's conversation available will be available soon, as well as all the bios for everyone and information on our panelists. But thank you again, everyone, and have a great rest of your evening.